All right. How's everybody doing? I'm trying to get these graphics off. And when I do, you're going to be able to see me. Let's figure that out. So I know you can hear me. You probably can't see me quite yet. We're going to get a little something going on here. Maybe one day I'll just do the show with all the graphics on there. How about that? I think I could do the show with the graphics on. What do you think? All right, y'all. It's Bob Dickerson, Wednesday. In the black. Got a few things to chat with you about this week. Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing this. Thanks for following me on Facebook. Thanks for following me on Twitter or wherever you do. We just introduced our blog about a month ago. So thanks for listening to and sharing the blog. I really appreciate all of your help and all of your support. I appreciate the love. It's just good to have it, good to know that you care about what I might be saying. And, even if you don't agree with me, you're still listening. So what's up, Benny Waters? Benny Waters, Tamika Marshall Hinton. How's everything going? Benny Waters, a high school. Well, Benny, I was a year ahead of Benny at Westfield High School. And I think about Westfield, it was a great school. I never went to an integrated school, actually, not even college, because I went to Tuskegee. We had a few white students, but we wouldn't have called it integrated. So, but I will tell anybody, we had the benefit of some of the best instructors, some of the best teachers, some of the best folks. Wow, Tamika. Yeah, wow. I don't know what you're saying wow about, but I'm curious to figure that out. So it's the evening, and that means, we can have a cocktail, no coffee. I don't drink coffee usually after morning. Rarely will you see me, hey, Bobby Marshall, rarely will you see me with coffee after, say, noon, but I might have a cocktail in the evening. So this week has been an interesting week for me. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. And then I'm going to tell you what I want to talk about today. And then I'm going to get out of here and enjoy the rest of my Wednesday, get ready for Thursday, and let you do the same. But I've had an interesting week because I've had some meetings with some of the bankers that I typically interface with on about a every other month basis. And we talk generally about the community reinvestment activities that their banks are involved with. Things like supporting small business, and that's what I do, affordable housing, making sure that nonprofits that support communities are healthy. And in every conversation that I've had with bankers over the past 6 weeks, and really even before then, politics has come up. It's really been difficult to have a conversation about anything. What's up, Sean? Is they're not kind of look at it through a political lens. And so our conversations, or my conversations with bankers, especially today and yesterday, we actually put on the agenda, hey, let's talk about what's happening in politics. And, it's amazing that most people will say things that we all agree with, and we know that. Most people want fairness. Most people say they want justice. Most people kind of consider injustice in the same way. We think about fairness in the same way. But these are even people that vote differently. They can talk about fairness and justice and equity and equality, but when it comes time to make a political decision, they do what appears to me to support notions and politicians and policies and parties and partisanship that kind of goes against the grain, that cuts against what, hey Allison, what looks like is going to be fair and equitable, what looks like it's going to be just and honest. And so just listening to all of these bank executives from around the country, and I was really encouraged with listening to a lot of them, because they do understand, and most of these are community development people. They work in the CRA area, so they do understand and have a heart for our communities for the most part. They understand what's happening, the messages that are being sent to folks who are really, just regular, ordinary, middle class folks that that think in a different way than appears to be logical. And I underscore appears to be logical because I'm not a mind reader, so I cannot tell somebody what ought to be logical to you. I can only say what appears to be logical to me. And so what appears to be logical to me for some person in the state of Alabama, some middle class person, be they black or white, somebody that's got a mortgage, somebody that might have some student loan debt, somebody that may have some credit card debt, that you can't vote to support policies and practices that push you behind the 8-ball and under the gun. You can't vote to support policies and practices that continue to make rich richer. Hey, I did this research. I may have said this before. We have tripled the number of billionaires in the last decade in America. We would triple the number of billionaires in the last decade, but we really have not improved the standard of living for average folks in a half century. Now, I want you to hear that again. We've tripled the number of billionaires in the past decade, but the regular folks, the folks with a mortgage and, trying to send their kids to school, trying to make sure that they can afford their health care, trying to have a decent standard of living, that's us. We hadn't had a raise. We haven't improved our standard of living in the past decade because we're sending all the resources to the top of the ladder where there's so much greed and avarice and where there is so much just hoarding of wealth and resources that it ought to be illegal. It ought to be illegal, but it's not. But once again, just, in talking to this group of bankers, some of them made some really good points about why folks act the way they act, vote the way they vote, support what they support. And it's the messages that they get. And I started thinking about it. It's the messages that we all get. And you all on social media right now listening to me. And social media, and I'm going to encourage all of us, me included, you included, to sometimes get out of our comfort zone and go listen to some folks that make you uncomfortable. Go, and when I say listen, I don't mean just listen to criticize them. I mean, listen to hear. Sean, yes, the wealth gap is tremendous. Danielle, how you doing? Shanita, how you doing? Don't just listen to criticize, but listen to hear, because we need to hear what other folks are saying, whether we agree with it or not. But these algorithms of social media tend to help you, and especially around politics, it tends to give you what you think. It tends to share with you more of the things that you seem to already like, already follow, already share. And so, when you think about it, and I think most of the folks that, I think I'm right. I mean, I don't think I'm wrong when I say that the wealth gap is is problematic. I don't think I'm wrong when I say that that the lack of racial equity in this country is a problem. I don't think I'm wrong when I say that Black folks have been victimized. I don't think I'm wrong. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm right. But those folks don't think they're wrong, because somebody's telling them that, if you're a certain political party, you want to take their gun, that you want to let everybody come over here and take their job, that folks that look like them are somehow sinister, that if you happen to be a Democrat, that is something wrong with you. These folks are hearing that. Now, I made a kind of cynical statement on a call. It wasn't one of the calls this week. I'm glad I restrained myself because I try not to be cynical. Sometimes you say things that you may not really mean it literally, Sharon, but you say it anyway. And so we were talking about the folks that have bought this notion that the election was taken. The Stop the Steal. I talked a bit about the Stop the Steal last week, and I don't know who was trying to steal it. But there are folks who really, in their heart of hearts, believe that stuff. And I made this statement. I kind of almost wish I had made this particular statement, but I made the statement that said these same people would tell you that the earth is flat if certain politicians told them to do so. They're following someone or someone's in some ideology, and they would follow it into hell if necessary. We know that a few hundred people drank some Kool-Aid in where was it, Jonestown, following Jim Jones. Now, I would like to think that me and all the folks listening to me and my family and friends wouldn't be that gullible, but there obviously are some gullible people out there that will follow folks, even folks that's leading them, into a fiery pit, even folks that's leading them to quote unquote death. So they'll follow them if they say that the Democrats stole the election. I love it when I saw the piece, and we've all seen it on Facebook, when the guy's interviewing, one of these Retrumplicans. I think that's what Chris Cuomo calls them. And he talks about 9/11. And, and the guy said that it was Obama's fault, that 9/11, that was 2001, just for the record, was Obama's fault. He says, well, why was it Obama's fault? He said, because he wasn't doing his job. He probably wasn't in his office. So he's asked him basically, well, where do you think he was? And he says, well, I don't know. And keep in mind that Obama became president in 2008. So the point is that a lot of these folks are ill-informed, misinformed, but they're being sold something, sold by conservative talk radio, sold by social media and what they get, and they're buying a lot of this stuff, hook, line, and sinker. But I also think that it's important for us to know what's being talked about out here, on this right-wing media. There's a whole lot more right-wing media on the radio than progressive media. A whole lot more. I guess folks who are progressive got more stuff to do than just listen to the radio, or even be on the radio. We don't, the Glenn Becks and Rush Limbaugh's and all those folks, they have a tremendous following. So anyway, interesting conversations. So we also talked a bit, and a part of the big news right now is the stimulus package seems like it's going to pass somewhere in the $800 billion range, $800 billion. Now, I'm going to always try to keep it real and be truthful. But wasn't it like $1.2 billion or $1.3 billion back in October? And I think it was the Democrats that said, nah, it wasn't enough. And now $500 billion less, everybody's saying, okay, we're going to have to go along with it. I do think it's important for our elected officials to be able to count. And I don't know that the Democrats counted very well, especially the ones in the House, because we Democrats run the House, but Democrats don't run the Senate. You've got to pass both houses. Same thing with impeachment, in which I think Trump needed to be impeached. But that was about all he was going to get, because he wasn't going to get convicted in the Senate and removed from office. I think we should have known that. And, you know, that unfortunately, when we went to the Senate, didn't get him out of office, but that the spin on that ended up being a victory for him, because there's very little acknowledgement of the fact that he was impeached. Wasn't really even talked about that much on the campaign trail, because, you know, an impeachment without a dismissal rings sort of hollow, you know, and it almost gives credence to the argument that it was a political ploy, you know, that it wasn't based on the fact that he, you know, tried to you know, blackmail a foreign leader. You know, I mean, come on. I mean, it almost makes that disappear. And so anyway, we're going to get some stimulus. They're going to do it a little bit differently around the loans and assistance to small business. I think I mentioned to you guys, and I wish you look at this, when they did the payroll protection loan program, that was to help small business keep employees. And we didn't think that the pandemic was going to last a year. We thought it'd be a quarter, you know, several weeks, couple of months, we get things back to normal. This was a stopgap measure. So when you kind of wound down or shut down or reduced your hours or your capacity for your business, you could keep people employed. Well, that didn't happen. You know, 8 months, almost 9, headed toward a year later, we still aren't back up to this time last year's robust vitality in our trade economy, in our commerce economy, you know, with restaurants and you know, because we're having to be smart and stay at home. And I think that is the smart thing to do. But what was really, I won't say I was embarrassed, but I was really hurt. I wasn't shocked, because I kind of knew this, but when you saw it, it you know how something kind of goes through you. So when I looked, and they finally made the SBA, the Small Business Administration, show the detail of the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, and you could see page after page of $10 million loans being made by banks that have CRA responsibilities. CRA, the Community Reinvestment Act, that says that banks will make their products and services available in all communities, including low and moderate income communities. Banks are evaluated on that. They can be criticized if they don't do a good job. All of these banks that have those responsibilities went ahead and made, hundreds, maybe thousands of $10 million loans. So somebody who needed $10 million, and I know we have different definitions of small businesses, and many of them meet the definition, and that's fine. There are size standards that SBA has. But somebody who's getting $10 million for short-term payroll, it was supposed to be for 8 weeks. 8 weeks of payroll, rent, mortgage interest. Those are the things that you were, and utilities. That's what you were supposed to be able to pay. So if your 8-week tab for payroll, mortgage interest, utilities, and whatever else I said, if that's $10 million, you are at the top of the small business ladder, and you're probably not the kind of business that the PPP was designed to help. Flip it over or extend it a little bit. By the time the mom and pops got their acts together, and I'm telling you, if you're a business, you need to have your act together all the time. We can help you do that at the Birmingham Business Resource Center. That's a plug. Call us. We want to help you. We'd love to help you put your stuff in order so that if a PPP opportunity comes about again, which it will, you are positioned to be able to get some of the money. And we're in a position to help you develop the relationship to do that too. Hey, James, I'm glad you found me. So anyway, I just wanted to be sure that I could share that with you. I really want businesses to get ready, to stay ready. There's going to be some additional PPP coming down. It'll be here shortly. We don't know if it's going to be before the end of the year or slightly, after 2021 comes in. They're working on it in Congress right now. But there's going to be some more PPP. There's going to be some more help for small businesses. Hey, Rashida. And we want to make sure that you're in a position to get that help. It's bad when everybody can get it except us. It's bad when everybody can get it except you. And I think that many of our businesses deserve it. Oh, the other thing, and I'll share that with you. I heard the senator from West Virginia, can't call his name right now. I heard him mention, and I've been asking questions about forgiveness. So the loan forgiveness. Now there is we haven't seen the details, but at the NCRC, we do have folks who are working on the Hill, Capitol Hill, trying to find every bit of information that we can have so we can share it with small businesses and nonprofit organizations. So there is somewhere in that bill, we believe, an easier way to get your loan forgiven unless your loan is for more than $150,000. I've heard it that it might be automatic, but then today I heard that it wasn't as automatic, but it was streamlined. And the one argument that we've been making with SBA and with folks in Congress is that the smaller businesses that borrow the $150,000 or less, their focus ought to be staying in business, not filling out a bunch of papers and burdening themselves because they're already under the gun. And so any kind of help and assistance, any kind of relaxation of some of the protocols, any way that we can help these folks do what they do to make a living and to keep folks employed, we ought to be doing that. And if making forgiveness easier or automatic is the way to do that, then I'm all for it. And I really do. I think that the loans under a certain amount that are likely going to be forgiven anyway should automatically be forgiven. It's not that much money, especially in light of the fact that there were like 5 pages of $10 million loans and probably another 5 or $9,500,000 and another 5 or $8 million. And so, those businesses they got accounting departments full of CPAs and other folks. So you can best believe that they're doing their due diligence. They're going to make sure that that those loans get forgiven. So I just want to share that. Hey, one last little subject. I want to shift gears a little bit. Today, so on the heels of the Washington, formerly the Redskins, finally taking that demeaning name to Native Americans off their moniker. They're the Washington football team now. It was announced earlier this week that the Cleveland baseball team is going to change their names from the Cleveland Indians. And my pet peeve is that India is this country over in Asia. And this whole thing about Columbus was supposed to be sailing to India and he ended up over here somewhere. And then we start calling these natives, Indians. I just take offense with that. I mean, I don't like it. I think they're natives of the hemisphere, indigenous people. We've tried to be enlightened. But anyway, so Cleveland is changing their name. But today, the Washington Post came out with an article that said that that Major League Baseball is going to start recognizing the statistics of the players of the Negro leagues of the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Now, and I couldn't help but think about my dad. And you know, if he was still living, Damien, hey Rashida, we would have talked about that today. You know, we would have talked about the fact that finally, you know, these giants, these titans, these great ball players are being recognized. And so hey, hats off to the Negro League players. So anyway, he would probably remind me about how good Josh Gibson and Cool Papa Bell were. And he talked about, I've heard him talk about before, Damien, there was some woman apparently who was also real good, who played, and maybe with the Indianapolis Clowns. I'm not sure which team. I may do some research on that. And even though my dad idolized Jackie Robinson, and many Black folks did, because Jackie broke the color barrier. He was ideal to do it because of his intelligence and demeanor and a lot of other things. But my dad would tell you that there were a lot of more talented players in the 30s and 40s than even Jackie Robinson that didn't get a chance. And he also, you know, as a lot of folks, you know, if you talk to older people that were into sports and followed it, that there were a lot of major leaguers, and we know this, that couldn't hold a candle to some of those, you know, Negro League players. And so, you know, now, I gotta say this, that he might not say it, but in the back of his mind, he still would have been a little bit remorseful. And here's the reason why. Those players that were great, they were great in their day, but they aren't around anymore. You know, they aren't around because they're old and they passed on. So they get this recognition too late to enjoy it. They died before getting their just due. They didn't get the recognition at the time. They didn't make the money at the time. They didn't get a chance to revel in their accomplishments at the time. They were treated like second-class citizens. They were treated like inferior ball players simply because they were Black. Their talent didn't matter. Their skill didn't matter. Their competitiveness didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was the color of their skin. So even though we be celebrating it and saying, hey, you know, glad that it's happening, I believe that our enthusiasm for these kinds of things ends up being dampened, you know, because we know that this doesn't make it right. So that's my point. We celebrate these superior athletes. The recognition that we're giving them today doesn't make up for the fact that they were wrong. Baseball could never make it up, just like society couldn't make it up to any of us whose families were forced into poverty because their ancestors were enslaved. That the hundreds of millions of folks, our ancestors, who had to settle for second-class citizenship, that can never be made up. So, you know, I'm happy that this injustice perpetrated on these Black men of the 20s and 30s and 40s that were superior athletes that could compete with anybody. I'm happy that there's been at least an attempt to acknowledge this and to set the record straight. But I'm telling you, there's still a lot of work to do and a lot of setting records straight and hopefully making things better for the descendants of these Negro League players and the descendants of folks that were victimized by this American society. Hey, I'll check you out again next week. This is Bob Dickerson, Within the Black.